but like you got the right people around. You're like, all right, I can really like, we can do something here and we can push. And you know what I mean? And then you start getting like, you've got all of the clients that have got the great results, and you're in your zone, you know what I mean? You're like, all right, it's time to like smash it.
So guys, in this video, I'm going to be talking to Will, who has 20 clients with his home improvement agency called Leads for Tradies. He has scaled his agency all the way from 0 to 20 clients. So if you have 0 or 15 clients or 16 clients, whatever it is, you're going to want to watch this video because he talks everything from building pods, hiring, going through SOPs, how he's scaled, how he's got his initial clients, everything you will want to know in this video. So give it a watch and let me know in the comments what you think of it. So without further ado, let's get into it. Will, where were you before Leads for Tradies?
Yeah, so I started off working in sort of the aquatic industry as a lifeguard. So it's a bit of a funny story, but I basically used to love basketball, used to play a heap of sports, and love, like, you know, gym, working out, still do. And then I actually got really into, I was hanging around the local leisure center, and as you know, mate, I'm a bit of a chatterbox. So I start talking to all these people, and sort of because I was training, I was training so often, and actually in all truth, I was meant to be going to university, and I hated it. I was always really shit at school. Not shit at school. I was okay, but I hated it. Like, and I especially hated university. So I never rocked up to uni, basically. And I used to, it's a little bit silly, but I used to tell my parents, because they really wanted me to go, obviously, make sure I was going to all my classes. So I used to pack a full day's sort of gym gear in my backpack, and then also pack my laptop for uni. And anyway, I'd end up just going to the gym. And you know, I'd shoot hoops for a couple of hours. I'd hit the gym, whatever. And then I ended up, because of that, getting really involved with like my local leisure center. Has a pool there. I became mates with a lot of like the lifeguards, because I was just hanging around every day because I was not going to uni. And then anyway, yeah, I sort of started working there. And after a little while, like I found I really liked, you know, the community aspect and that sort of stuff, like a real people person. And then I started to, I had this opportunity come up there. I always had this dream. I wanted to have my own business, but I never really knew how I was going to get there. And I never really knew what it was going to be. And to be honest, I was someone that had a lot of like paralysis by analysis. Like, I would look into all these different business models. Maybe I could start this, maybe I could start that. And I go, oh no, this isn't good because of this, or this isn't good because of that. You know what I mean? And I sort of never took action. I was pretty young, but I never sort of like, you know, took action when I really, looking back, I could have. But I had this opportunity come up at my work, basically to shadow and to be sort of like the HR manager's assistant there. And I was like, wow, this is great. I'm gonna, like, HR is obviously super important for building a big business, you know, people systems, that sort of stuff. I'm gonna learn from this professional, get paid for it, and sort of progress that way. And then, you know, that'll line up really well. And when I've got my own business, I'll have all these new skills. This is what the idea was. So then I can get pretty fixated on stuff. So I start working in this HR job. And anyway, I became basically, I smashed it for him. And then like 3 months in, the HR manager actually quit the job. And then they gave me a shot, and they were like, hey, do you want to be the new sort of HR manager? And I was just the assistant, you know what I mean? But I'd sort of been shadowing. I knew more than anyone else did. So I did that. And then basically, then I became this like HR manager at like sort of 20. And then sort of pretty soon after, like 6 months after, it was like regional HR manager. So we had a lot of sites. So before I knew it, all of a sudden, and then we went into COVID. But then over that time, I ended up having about like 300 staff under under me for HR, which was not like, obviously they had their own managers, but obviously I was like the HR manager, and I was just pushing that, and sort of almost in the same way that I am with business now. I was like so dedicated to that job. And then one day I realized, and maybe other people might have had this or might be in this right now. I sort of just was like, oh, I've got a great girlfriend, I got a great life, great. Like everyone, you know, I'm killing at my job, but it just doesn't feel right. What's going on here? And I sort of took a couple of weeks to reflect, and I was like, holy. Like, I got into this to sort of grow these skills to have my own business, and now I'm so far away from that. You know what I mean? I'm nowhere near starting a business. So then I was like, no, I've just got to do it. And that's when I started my agency. I was freelancing, but I started my agency. You know what I mean? So I did that. I did both for about 12 months until I could support myself without and quit my full-time job, which was hard, but it was the best. Like, I mean, I was working probably about 90 to 100 hours, like most weeks. Not every week, but most weeks, because I'd work obviously the full job, and like I'd work in the morning, I'd work my job, and then I'd work at night. But it was like the best time because I was like building something, and I could, you know, you had the exit ramp and you start building momentum. So yeah, that's how I started. And then yeah, from there I sort of never looked back once I sort of got enough work to scale down. So I actually just dropped off that full-time job, just did a couple of shifts here and there when I needed to, and then just kept pouring all that same time that I lost in my job. I ended up pouring that time into the agency at that sort of crucial, you know, stage where you're building that momentum and you got that exit sort of velocity almost. Poured more in at that stage. Yeah.
So like you talk about the exit ramp, and just in terms of like, how did you get your first clients while you're working in that HR position?
Yeah. So the way that I got my first clients was by I tried a lot of different things. So what I started doing, my first thing was cold email, and I suck at it. I still do. I've never had to rely on it, so it's something I've got to learn. But I was not very good at cold email. I tried. I didn't really get anything back, and then I realized I was sort of reflecting, like, what should I do? Should I keep cold email? Obviously, a lot of people are in the same position. I see a lot of it through the agency club where people are like, do I do this or do I do this? And then you start almost like you're almost not doing enough of anything because you're like, what path do I go down? And then I sort of just took a breath. I was like, all right, what would suit me? I've got the gift of the gab a little bit. So I was like, all right, well, maybe getting on the phone with these people would be better for me. So I start cold calling. I had all of the normal, you know, shitting yourself sitting there. You've got a list of people to call, and do I call John first or Craig? And really, you just don't want to call anyone. But so then I sort of tried to make it a bit of a game, you know. So I basically got I basically had a book like this, and I wrote out like what the goal was, and then I would mark them out. You know what I mean? So like every call that I made, didn't have to get in touch with them, but every call I made, I would like mark it out, and I wanted to get like 60 in the first day or whatever. So I didn't have anything else. I didn't have any clients. I just sat there and I was like, all right, I've 60 today. And I just went bang, 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 bang. So anyway, so that was sort of the way I did it. It actually worked out really well because I obviously, as you know, we work with trades. And I was able to finish my full-time job. I was able to finish at like 3:30, so I'd start earlier in the morning. So that came into the perfect time of the day to be making cold calls, if that makes sense. So I just basically get home from work, smash a bowl of cereal, and get into me cold calls, to be honest, which worked well. So then my strategy was basically giving them a cold call. I had a little script for Facebook ads. I hadn't run Facebook ads before, but I've obviously got a bit of conviction. So I was able to explain to them what I was doing is I wasn't selling them my Facebook ads or my results, but I was selling them over that sort of cold call. I was selling them, you know, what's possible with Facebook ads. And I was leaning on not my own proof, but I was leaning on Facebook as where they should be putting their trust, not me. You know what I mean? So I wasn't saying that like you should trust me because like our current pitch deck is, you know, our client results and what we are all about and that sort of stuff. It was more about like, hey, I don't know if you know this, but this is what's possible with Facebook because Facebook's this and Facebook's that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then basically once I got them to believe that Facebook was the right fit for them, then what I would do is I would basically just transition to just trying to get a demo with them, or not a demo, but like a proper meeting. And the way I did that initially was just, I actually would pick local cafes, and I'd scrape leads in my local area, and I would tell them that I want to meet up face to face with them. And the reason I did that is because I know that tradies especially, and a lot of older tradies, they really value sort of, I don't know, they don't like bullshit, you know what I mean? And they get a lot of cold calls. So a lot of the people who are cold calling them obviously are either far away or or they don't want to spend any time on them. You know what I mean? They just want to try and get them in the door. So I would basically just have a chat with them and sell them on the Facebook, and then I would say, look, how about this? I know you're probably not used to this, but I'd love to get you coffee, maybe even some lunch, and we can catch up and really go unpack this in more detail. And yeah, they all loved that. And then once I could get them there and sit them down, I could get them to give me a chance. You know what I mean? Because they could probably a lot of them were guys, you know, guys that had started their business when they were young, and they could see themselves, you know what I mean, a little bit in me at that time. So yeah, the local strategy is something I definitely recommend.
Like Luke touched on the last call, or the last interview we had, is like people are inherently good people, or like most people are inherently good people, and like they're like those business owners who are obviously the majority are older, or if not all are older. They're like rooting for you, right? They're like, this
100%.
guy is not only local, you know. I'd always start off with like, I'm just beside that supervisor, I'm just beside that shop, you know, I'm just beside there. I know you're here, let's meet up in cafe for you, something like that, you know. Yeah, I just like that personal touch, because obviously a lot of people in the States and Ireland, a lot of people in Ireland like cold calling to Australia, so it's like that personal element like obviously goes a huge way for them. But
massively, people are like on that though. People, I think a lot of people, and maybe people who might watch this are it can be really intimidating to sort of get started, because I don't know what exactly, you know, I'm no genius, I don't know exactly what the cause is, but people, I think today more than ever, really have very little hope about, you know, other people. You know what I mean? They think everyone's out for them, or I don't know if it's animosity or division in media and that sort of stuff, or what you see online. But realistically, when it comes down to it, most people, like you said, are good people, or at least like socially, you know what I mean? Like they're not gonna spit on you. You know what I mean? Like they're not sort of like really that rude. And I was surprised by that. But the people who like really are worried about cold calling, it can be something that holds you back for a while. Like you just don't want to get started. I was so surprised, man, when I finally ripped the Band-Aid. I was cold calling for marketing, like tradespeople. You would think that if anyone was going to get abused, making hundreds of calls, that I'd be copying some. But honestly, man, out of maybe every 100 calls, I'd be unlucky if one of them was like nasty to me. You know what I mean? And like I would have expected going into it that it was going to be 30% would like bail me out.
Like I've never got a fuck off to my face. Like I've been so surprised with that, because every YouTube video I've watched to like train myself up and build that courage of cold calling, I've been like, you're gonna get an F off, you're gonna get really aggressive people, but never happened. Never happened. So so like so from cold calling your initial clients did you continue that path?
So cold calling, and I don't think this was the best way of going about it. I don't know. It's hindsight's always 20/20. I started off obviously doing a bit of cold calling, and then I took as many referrals as I could get early on. Obviously, what that meant though was that I wasn't super niche down. You know what I mean? Like I was taking on all sorts of different stuff. That actually, it helped me because I was able to grow and build. I was really able to build a sort of skill set that was a lot broader than what I would have been able to do otherwise. So it was good in that regard. For building the agency and building the business, it wasn't great, because I was basically splitting my focus all these different ways. You know, like I was a Facebook ads agency that ended up doing web design, email, and I still do some of these things, but just like systemized, you know what I mean? But web design, we had SEO clients, we had Facebook ads, we had like some email marketing stuff, and I like learning all of those skills. Like these are all things you can have a whole agency on, you know what I mean? So wasn't the best way, but basically, I went from cold calling to referrals, took on work that way, and then eventually that basically held me enough until we got to the point where I met Sam. So a funny story about with me and Sam, but basically I was sitting in my bedroom one night, just like pulling my hair out with a really specific, I can't remember what it was. It was a really specific home improvement marketing problem. You know what I mean? Like I was like, how do I get these leads or whatever? And so I search it, Sam's video comes up, and I was just like that, like buggered that I literally, and this is when I was still working at my other job as well, but I was sitting there, I was like so buggered, and I literally just was like, all right, let's just chuck this up on the TV. So I like cast it to my TV. I'm just sitting there, and then it's Sam. He's talking about this. He's going through his video or whatever. And this is the weirdest thought, but I'm sitting there. I was like, oh, this dude's cool. And I was like, this is elite. And I just think to myself, I was like, I reckon if I knew this bloke, we'd be good mates. And it's such a random thing because like other side of the world, just sitting there watching a YouTube video, and then I reached out to Sam for some consulting, and couldn't afford it at the time. But I eventually was like, yeah, I just bit the bullet, and I was like, I've got to do this. I've got a month to make my money back. I sort of made a little wager with myself, but did it. And then it was the best thing I ever did. So from there, Sam basically helped me get set up to like sort of streamline the business a lot more. And start running ads, and then we basically kept catching up after that, became really good mates, and now obviously like I've been over to the UK, caught up, which is it's a random thing from watching my YouTube video, you know what I mean? But it's ended up with him really helping me more than anyone else to grow my business, and we basically walking me through how to set up my ads. Obviously I know, like I did Facebook advertising, but I for some reason had this belief that I couldn't do it for myself, even though we were having success doing it for clients. So he was like, no, just like do it. And then, we did. And it was really, really good. And that's changed everything since then, because now we've got a profitable way of bringing in new clients. And even when the lead, the cost per lead might go up and down a little bit, but at the end of the day, we're selling, and like I'm selling enough that it's super profitable. Like, I might get shitty one month because like early days, I might have gotten shitty one month because my like lead cost has doubled or whatever. And then Sam would help me run through the numbers, and he'd be like, hold on, you're signing a new client for $400. And in the first month you're making, like $1,200 on them, as opposed to signing them for $250 and making 12. Like he's like, you're still super profitable. So now I've got the system that anytime we need more work, it's just like flipping a switch, you know what I mean? And we normally keep it running most of the year round. I've got it like we're not taking on new clients at the moment, but that's for strategic reasons, and still get referrals. So
okay, yeah. And where are you at currently in terms of clients?
And
if you're sharing,
of course. Of course. So I mean, we do pay per appointment, so things can vary a little bit. At the moment we've got sort of 15 to 20 clients. The reason I have 15 to 20 is we've got a couple onboarding, and there's a couple still coming back from the summer sort of break. So who knows? You can never count them for sure, but should have 20. We'll say 15, 20. But and revenue wise, we're sort of, depending on the month, 20 to 25K. So look, behind where I would want to be, which people will probably be like, oh, what the hell, but that are really sort of getting started. But obviously it's one of those things where once you start pushing the goal, you move the goalposts all the time. So we've got really big goals this year and going into the future. But the plan really at the moment, and to share with you why we've stopped aggressively sort of onboarding, is that towards the end of last year, I realized we were making a mistake in taking on the wrong sort of clients, people that really were qualified, they were the right trades and they were right, but they weren't necessarily long-term partners, because either they weren't able to sell very well, which obviously is hard to know at the start, but or they were just lower value clients as far as like monthly value, which it sounds cutthroat, but at the same time, when you're running a pod, you've got a limited number of clients that any one pod can handle, if that makes sense. So if you've got guys that you'll have a lot of friction charging higher amounts for, to take them on, it takes a position of someone else in that pod, you know what I mean? And obviously the business has a capacity that with our ability to sell, that capacity can be filled up pretty quickly. So then you've got to try and optimize. And that's what I'm doing at the moment. Is we had a couple drop off at the end of last year, before Christmas. So now I'm like, all right, well, not chasing them back up. Let's focus on what the best clients look like. And even if the sales are twice as hard to make, let's really push towards, you know what I mean? So, and that's the way that we're going about it now. And also the reason we're stopping is we've got a lot of operational improvements to make to really shore this up as a proper company, because a lot of us start off as freelancers, with agencies, and then you make your first hire, and then you're sort of like, then you're like, oh, I'm a business, but you're sort of still a freelancer plus, you know what I mean? You're just sort of getting a bit of extra hours diverted somewhere else. So now we've started all sorts of different things to really streamline operations, streamline hiring, you know, things like you know, new staff onboarding procedures, but also like full onboarding and training courses. Obviously all of the SOPs that we've had, but we've obviously worked more on all of that. You know, we have like team meetings every day now, like at 10 o'clock, just a 15-minute like team building. Everyone just has a chat, has a coffee, catches up before everyone gets stuck into their day. It's just helps build cohesion and everyone touching base and all sorts of different things. But I was like, all right, I really want to focus on the business for the first month or two of this year. Still take on all of the different little referrals and stuff that we get. And then come Feb, just like, I want to be, you know, selling 10 clients every month. Yeah. And but to be doing that, you need to have everything super like.
So you're at that point where it's like you've got the team already there, and it's just like that conveyor belt. You just want to start pushing clients into that machine.
Exactly. Yeah. So and it's built. That's what I mean. That's why focusing on having it, like you said, be a real machine where like it's really predictable, the inputs and outputs. That's what I'm working on this next month or so. We're pretty close, but it's more just like focusing on that, but like making that my concerted sort of focus for a while, so that by the end of that, we can onboard 10 new clients every month and have it be a great experience and have everyone be smooth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I saw a podcast there, it was a year ago, and they did exactly that. They were like, okay, we're ready to where you're at currently. They're like, we have the capacity now. We have we can take on this. We have the team. We just want to start feeding it in. And that's exactly what they did. And like currently they're doing like, they've worked at like 59 clients. So, or they have currently 59 clients, and they do everything from videography to socials and digital marketing. So it's really interesting to see that, like the same thing you're talking about, but just like what's happened. So that's a good sign anyway.
100%. You just realize it, like once you've got the team and you've got the right people around, and we're still hiring. We've got one more spot to fill at the moment before I'm sort of ready to run in sort of Feb. But but like you got the right people around. You're like, all right, I can really like we can do something here and we can push, and you know what I mean. And then you start getting like, you've got all of the clients that have got the great results, and you've got you're in your zone. You know what I mean? You're like, all right, it's time to like smash it. But Sam mentioned to me, we were talking about it, and he goes, before you do that, like obviously don't stop selling, but before you do that, make sure you're like really profitable, because as you scale, it doesn't get more profitable, it gets less. You know what I mean? He's like, so make sure your business is profitable where it's at before you start. And that's a nugget there. Like that's such good advice from someone that's obviously been there and done it. But he said to me, he's like, make sure your business is really profitable and you're super aware of all of that before you really push scaling, because it won't get more profitable. It'll drop off.
Right. What was I going to say? So how did you find that team?
Yeah. So in hiring, the first one, the way I went about it was Facebook groups, which was good and worked. So I found I hired someone out of just like Facebook media buyers group, that sort of thing. Which was good. We got like, probably by posting in those sort of things, we probably got like, I don't know, 10, 20 people apply. You know, you 10 of them aren't the right fit from before you interview. Then you find, you interview, whatever. You go through that process, you meet the person. I suppose I'll share more in detail. Actually, it'll be more beneficial. So, for example, for a media buyer, we had an initial interview just to see if they were the right sort of fit personally, like culture wise. And then after that, we then send all of the successful shortlisted applicants. We then send them a media buying test. So basically, they have to. It's almost like onboarding, or like a client brief. You know what I mean? So we send them a brief and we go, make some creatives. Tell us what your media buying strategy would be. How would you launch this? What sort of budget would you recommend? So that like actually testing them out. And then we go through that, and then if there's a couple of good ones after that, we do a final interview, and then obviously make your pick after that. That was media buying. and we did it through like an online, as I said, just a Facebook page group. I wouldn't do it that way again, because we now do it. We now run recruitment ads in on Facebook in the areas that we're looking to hire specifically. So those groups can have people from all around the world, different time zones and everything. With building a proper, like building a company where everyone's on the same page and people are really working together, it's just so critical to have the time zones all line up, or at least be similar. So you can't have one person in South, not you can't, but it's a lot more difficult to get that real team cohesion and have everyone bought into the same vision and moving in the same direction and motivated together. If one person's in South Africa, one person's in, the Philippines, one person's in, India, it's hard to have that. So we now, because of the closeness to Australia's time zone, as well as a lot of skill in that market, we now hire in the Philippines, and we run job ads specifically for each of the positions that we are looking for to the Philippines. Now, the problem with that is we get so many applications. So then you have to be smart with basically putting a process in place to filter people out, because you can't do it manually. So we had 1,500 appointment set applications. But the way that I knew it was going to be a lot. So we had the initial application, and then everyone got emailed it in depth, like probably 10 minutes it would take to fill it out. They got emailed that one. So from step 1 to step 2, we lost 90%. So 1,500 people applied, 150 full applications came through. And then from those full applications, then it was a lot of work, but we basically went through them, shortlisted, came to interview, set up our interviews, and then obviously found the right person after that.
Fast. Yeah, that's really insightful. Thank you for going in depth, because I feel
like
more in depth you go, it's more beneficial, as you said.
Yeah.
And so, just to, I know you're busy, so we'll wrap up shortly. But
no stress.
where are you looking at going? You mentioned in February you're looking at hiring one more position, and you have that kind of conveyor belt ready to go. But if you can tell me a bit more.
Yeah. So I mean, I've got up here, my desktop wallpapers. Our 5-year vision for the company is, we want to really make some waves especially in our industry, in our niche within home improvement marketing. So we're looking to have, at the moment, we've got, as I said, approximately 20 partners. We're looking to, by the end of this year, have at least sort of 50 to 60. It depends. As I said, my goal will be to sort of be bringing on up to 10 clients every month. We'll see how that goes. A safe bet is, by the end of the year, we want to be at least 50 to 60 clients. And our 5-year plan is to enter the US market, basically be in Oz and US, and we want to have over 500 partners across those two markets, which I think is so doable, man, in 5 years' time. And basically just dominate that way and just be the go-to. Obviously, there's a lot of lead provider services like your Bark and there's High Pages here in Australia and different things like that, for people who just want leads. But as far as people who want a marketing agency for their home improvement business, I want us to be, up there with, be first to mind. So one of the big things that is going to involve in the future is a lot of brand awareness marketing, a lot of money spent. It'll be well worth it, but really broad, a lot of brand awareness campaigns and stuff like that to back up all the great work that we're doing, and also growing with social media as well.
Okay, really interesting. Is there any areas you've been looking at where in certain regions where you're thinking there's no competition and it'll be more scalable that way, or is it just?
No, not really. And I think it's a good thing to look at. Obviously, you want to try and find your blue ocean where you've got a lot more competitive advantage. But in reality, I think I could be wrong here. Been wrong plenty of times before, but I think personally, when we've got a really long-term vision like what we do, this is obviously our 5-year thing. Obviously, I've got ambitions for what we want to do, the impact that I want to have going beyond that. when you're talking about competing over years and years, you're not really going to find some untouched market. If you do, it won't stay untouched. You know what I mean? So like over the long term, the way to be successful is to be the best company and have the best competitive advantage that you can as a company. You know what I mean? And obviously pick your markets and find the opportunities, but really it comes down to the standards you hold yourself to in growing the business, and obviously your level of commitment, not only in the time that you're going to spend, but also putting your money where your mouth is in, and obviously, you know, reinvesting in the business to grow. So I think that's those are the main things for it. Obviously I haven't exactly grown a massive business at this stage, but not yet anyway.
Yeah. I remember hopping on just the call before we had, it was about the SOPs that you did, and it was, you go so in detail just about like the 10-minute form application that you done for the Philippines, like just like that level of detail, and you showed me through the SOP sheets and stuff. So yeah, no doubt you'll be there.
I appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it. But yeah, look, it's also in saying all of that, one of the big lessons that I've learned in this last couple of years, I'm still sort of tossing up whether or not what I feel about this, but I've been reflecting on it, like always been a rush, but like not to be disappointed about where you're at when you're there. You know what I mean? Like people will say like, oh, you know, you don't have to be in a rush. Things will come. It'll take time. I think being in a rush has so many benefits in that you learn so much faster, you grow, and it compounds so much quicker. But I think that there's a trade-off when you're always in a rush. Often you're moving the goalposts, and you can get disappointed when you fall short in your goals. Like I remember a funny story is I remember my first 10K a month or whatever in the agency. When you think about when you start your agency, everyone is like so eager to get to those 10K months. You know what I mean? Like, and you dream about it, dude. Like I know I did. I was like, wow, 10K a month. I can't wait. Like when you get to that point, and everything's like, you know, the land of milk and honey, basically. Like, you know, you think it's gonna be the best thing in the world. And it is. It's awesome. But the funny story was my 10K a month, man. I was just like pushing, building the business, like focused, rushing, doing this, like trying to do everything I could at once. And it got to the end of the month, and I was like, oh, all right, like I fell short. I wanted to hit 15K this month. And then it wasn't until like an hour later, I was like, oh, this is my first 10K month. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Like I'd done like 8K or 9K the month before, and then we hit like 10 or 11 that I can't remember what it was, but it was like 10 or 11 that month. And all I'd been focused on is that in the meantime, I'd shifted those goalposts to be at 15. And I was disappointed in myself for not hitting the 15 grand. And I was like, and then a moment of realization came over me. I was like, I was literally like daydreaming about hitting 10K a month. And then when it happened, I'd already moved the goalpost. So I think being in a rush is good, but just understand the journey, that it is going to take so much time, and there's no such thing, I don't think, as long as you got food on the table and you're growing as a person and you're growing the business, there's no wasted, like I mean, I spent heaps of time doing web design. I spent heaps of time doing SEO. I spent heaps of time working with gyms. I took on a few gym clients and was working with them. Now, at the moment, we do a Facebook ads appointment setting agency for tradies. None of those things really relate, but like, I'm so glad I've got all those skills, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a waste in that way. And I think that's an important message, because a lot of people that get started on this, they're in such a hurry to get their Bugattis that they're worried. You know what I mean? That like they feel like they've wasted 6 months if they've gone down the wrong path. But realistically, it is all development, as long as you're pushing yourself every day.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, because I was having the same thought. It's like, there's so many benefits to being in a rush, but then, you know, we're at that stage where it's just a co-founder of me, doing, like, we're basically freelancers, like plus ones. But yeah, like, I'm so grateful where I am. But obviously, do be in a rush. So it's
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, thanks a million for your time, Will. I'm sure this is going to be really valuable. I'm going to share it on my YouTube. Just let me know your ats, where people can find you.
Yeah,
awesome. If you want to mention it now, it'll be in the description anyway.
Yeah. No, I've got to step up my social media game anyway, so I'll pick something to send you through for the description. But look, yeah, I appreciate your time, man, and I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see your growth over this next sort of 6 months, 12 months. What's your vision? Because I know you're obviously in the seat asking the questions, but what's your plan for this year?
Yeah, so I'm in college, and so is the co-founder. So it's kind of we're only at like 5 clients at the minute. So I want to maintain that. But like I was hopping on a call with you, and you're like, bro, 10K is so doable. Just like you were like 500 partners, it's so doable. Like I was like 10K per month. It's like, no way. And you're like, nah.
Yeah, you got it.
Show me through the SOP sheets. It's like, wow. So like that is the goal. But yeah, we'll see. I want to be at 10 clients per month by like the end of the year. Probably like at the end of October, November, 10 clients per month, we'd be laughing. Yeah, we're really happy with that. So that's the goal.
Awesome.
Habit trackers, all of that Sam has in the group. I'll also leave that in the description. But yeah. Again, thanks a million for your time, and
awesome,
have a good rest of your day, and I'll have a good night.
Yeah. Sleep off those beers, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Cheers, Will.
Easy, bro. Bye.